Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today's video is one that I have been wanting to make for quite some time. However, I have been full of flu, so I've just been slowly recovering from that, but fingers crossed the worst of it is out of the way, so I can get back to doing all sorts of planty things. If you're new here, welcome, my name is Jamie. I make all sorts of planty content, so if you would like to follow my journey, then please hit that subscribe button. And yeah, let's get to it. So today I am making my first prop box, which is quite exciting. And I will be chopping up my lovely Pothos here and propagating it all in this prop box. She is doing wonderfully on this pole, however I would rather see some bigger mature leaves, and I have chopped her down before on here just to see if chopping her down and regrowing her would help. However, some of the new leaves, as you can see here, are still rather small, so I would rather just chop her down completely and start from scratch. I'm hoping it goes well and I hope that I don't lose her. However, I think propagating her and starting from scratch is probably the best thing. But yeah, as you can see, I've got a nice big box to make into a prop box. So the first part of the prop box is some chunky bark. As you can see, I've got it from Soil Ninja. What a surprise. You probably saw this on my unboxing video. If you haven't seen it, then go check it out. But yeah, so this will be going on the first base of the prop box. It is so that once the roots do form and they go deeper down, then it means that transferring the plants to soil will be a little bit easier. Well, that's what I'm hoping anyways. So yeah. Right, so as you can see, I got the finer grade of bark just because I think it will be a little bit nicer for roots to properly root into than the super chunky bark, if that makes sense. But it is still rather chunky, but yeah, I think this one will be a lot more suited to going in the prop box as the base. Okay, so we'll just spread that along the base just to make a nice, fairly thick base, but not too thick as we've still got another two materials to put on top of this. But I think that will probably do. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see the line, but it's a fairly thick base, but not too thick, because you still want there to be plenty of room for the leaves to grow and for the plants to establish. And where this is such a wide prop box, I think it should be enough space for them all. Fingers crossed anyways. So the next material that I am putting on top of the bark is some perlite. I've actually got a smaller bag which I'm going to use up first because I'd rather just use up a bag than open a fresh bag. So you just pour that in. However, remember that when you are using perlite, be careful of the dust, wait for it to settle before you go breathing it and going into that box. So just give it a little second. Right. As you can see, that was hardly enough. So it's lucky that I bought this nice fresh bag. So just gently pour that in. and wait for the dust to settle because you don't want to be breathing this in. I do have the windows open, so there is fresh air coming through, by the way, so don't panic. I have taken precaution. And then once the dust has settled, you want to spread it around and create that second base. Now that I have spread out this second layer, I am going to go in with some water and just dampen it very, very lightly, just to make those bases a little bit more damp, because I have a hunch that if I put the sphagnum moss on top and then spray it down, these layers won't get enough water really to penetrate through. So we'll go in with some water. So I'll just spray all this down. Right, so now that that has all been dampened down, I will be going in with the sphagnum moss next. I will be doing a nice thick layer of this as well, as this will be the primary substrate that the roots will first initially root into. So we want it to be nice and thick, and also sphagnum moss holds moisture in really, really well. So yeah. So we want to get some handfuls of moss and just spread that all about in this prop box. And I usually like to go in and just sort of fluff it up so that there's a lot of nice gaps and spaces, but it's still compacted in. So just go around and pop that all in. And that is pretty much the prop box complete, except for the propagations, of course. But as you can see, it's got a layer of bark, a layer of perlite, and a layer of sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss is also rather damp, so I won't be spraying it just yet. However, I will keep an eye on the moisture levels as the propagations go through. But it should hold the moisture really, really well in here anyways. So now I've got to chop down all of this pothos and pop it in the box. So I have my trusty snips here, and I don't know if I'll just take these bits out or whether to completely reroot this. Oh, there we go. So this white substance here is actually rooting hormone, I believe, from what I can remember. It's also got a bit of a squidgy, rotten base, so I will snip that off, like that. But I will probably just pop this in the prop box as is. The root rot has actually gone through the stem, so I might chop it here actually, because there are a few nodes for roots to form. So I'll chop that there and pop pop that in like so. And fingers crossed it will grow some roots. But I've got to untie all of this. I might start at the top and then chop it all down as we go. So I will start up here. There we go. So I have previously chopped it here, so that's why this new shoot is grown out of it. I am actually going to break that piece off, I think, and see what happens really. As this is an experiment after all, and Pothos is really, really easy to propagate, so I'm not too worried about being like cautious or sparing with this plant. But look at the variegation on that. I think it's beautiful, and hopefully I will get some more variegated pieces. So I'll just lay her down there. I'll take off this leaf because I don't want there to be too many leaves, just because the prop box isn't too big. And I'll just pop that there. Actually, what I am going to do is I am going to take off probably all of the leaves. I know that sounds rather drastic, however, I'm now looking at the size of these leaves and the amount of plant that I have, and I think I will just do these sort of wet sticks. If it's got a new leaf forming, then I'll leave it be. But I think that will be a lot better of a space-saving tactic. But yeah, so when you are wanting to propagate, you need to find a node, which is this bit here, and then you'll want to chop underneath that node. So you want to chop above that and below it, and then it's ready to propagate. Some of this plant is actually quite well rooted into this pole. However, it's not enough for it to gain any sort of nutritional benefits from it. So I think doing this is probably a good thing. But look at all those roots. Shall I chop that in half? I might do. No, I'll leave this one as it is. It's okay if they have a couple of nodes each. If there are any long aerial roots, then just stick them into that sphagnum moss and give them a little bury. and hopefully that will trigger them to grow some more finer actual soil roots. If that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. Oh wow, look at that root. As you can see, it was really trying to grapple hold of this pole. However, I do think it will be a lot happier on a fresh moss pole. But yeah, look at that root. So aerial roots are also used just for the plant to grapple hold of the tree, or in this case, the choir pole. So they act sort of like an anchor. However, if these hit the soil, then they can soak up nutrients as well, which is why I want it on a fresh moss pole, because the fresh moss pole means that it will basically act like an elongated plant pot, if that makes sense. So it'll be able to soak up more nutrients because I'll also be keeping the moss pole moist and fertilized. Just so the plant can get some of those extra nutrients to hopefully promote some bigger leaves. And also, I'm not pulling off the roots, I'm also just pulling off the fibres of the choir which the roots have grappled hold of. And I'm going to cut this one in half. I know this seems very excessive of the amount of propagations that I'm taking. However, I do want to make this into a absolutely massive and thick pothos in years to come. That one was very stuck in there. And when you do place the wet sticks into the propagation box, as you can see, I am just laying them down, but if they do have the little stubby root, then you just put that inside. You don't bury the actual stick. Now this one's aerial root is quite long, so I will actually be snipping this one off, just there. Some of these sticks as well also have a bit of damage, so I won't be propagating all of them, only the best sort of sticks. Well, actually no, I will be propagating the majority of them, but when they have a lot of damage on them, then it's not really worth it. This one's leaf is absolutely adorable, as you can see, so I will be keeping this leaf on just because it is so sweet. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Luckily, there is plenty of stems to root instead. So as you can see, this prop box is pretty full of Pothos wet sticks now. So it is time to pop the lid on. And I will be putting it underneath here because I do actually have a grow light. So this will be my propagation station, if you will. And yeah, so I will hopefully give you an update in maybe a couple of months' time or a few weeks, depending on how quickly this lot grows. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I am now covered in coco coir dust from this pole, but fingers crossed I have saved my pothos and it will hopefully grow back a lot thicker. But yeah, so thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!